on is that I don't see either of you wearing dots on your face, which previously was the technology that would have allowed you to have, VFX people to de-age or, reverse age you guys. Can you just take us a little bit into how it was actually achieved in this case? I know none of us are employed by ILM, which did this, but I feel like maybe you can explain just a little bit about how this process actually worked.
I liked it. The little round robot there that I come to relate to. But no, the thing is that it was so odd because this is a good story. It's such a good story, well written. And when I saw the film, I did see it with dots on it, and all of us the same kind of way. And it was gone in a couple of minutes. Honestly, it was, and I wasn't the only one who said that. There's certain things you can do, and others you can't. And in this film, it didn't bother me. But the idea of putting dots on, I don't think we thought about that.
No,
you didn't think about it because that, like anything else, it's like a stone in your shoe or something. You don't think about it. It wasn't an inconvenience at all. Way they had set it up. They had that pretty little robot. I liked it.
It is interesting though, I read that you guys had a movement coach because when you're supposed to be 40 versus 60 versus whatever, you're gonna move differently and
It worked.
Bobby and Ray, I wanted to ask you about working with Martin Scorsese. You had done that before on Vinyl, and a show that many of us love. And I just wonder, from that experience, from this, just watching him up close, and watching these guys up close, what were the sort of biggest takeaways from being around people who've been doing it at such a high level for so long? Ray, you want to start?
Well, for me, I was terrified in the beginning, and I'm still a little scared right now. But I have to say, once I got to know Marty, once I got to know both these guys, they made me feel comfortable. They were very warm and very giving, and the fear went away for me as much as fear can go away, because there's always a little bit there. Yeah, it was a dream come true. I'm glad it took so long to make too, because in 2007, I was working at a Bed Bath & Beyond. I would have got the call, no.
Bobby, I heard that in the Villa de Roma restaurant scene, some of them with you and Ray, you guys may have sort of essentially like exchanged a little bit of amazement with each other about just being there.
Yeah, so it's funny, in that scene, at the very end in the movie, there's a wide shot, and that's when you won't notice, because you just saw an amazing scene, but we notice that we're in that scene. We're sitting at the table. But because when we shot it, Marty said, I'm going to start on you guys, and you guys have a conversation. It's a really classic scene, Scorsese type scene, where there's like two conversations happening at the same time, and Ray and I are having a conversation about, I'm complaining about the guy keeps trying to serve me a subpoena, what kind of lawyer are you? I'm going to get a new lawyer. It's like a funny scene, and then the camera drifts over to the real scene between Bob and Joe, and he said, you guys, I'm going to start on you, and then when you feel the camera get off you, just mime the scene and let those guys talk. And we're like, yeah, okay. And so we're doing a little improv, and then the camera goes off us. And the moment it's off of us, we stopped miming and just went. And we're just looking at each other going. And then I think the camera came back, and we're like, yeah, and another thing. And we went back to our scene, but yeah, that happens a lot.
Jesse, doing the back and forth in the car about the fish, that feels like one of these classic conversations about random things that both Bob and Al have done so well in a number of movies over the years, and I just wonder, to have them in the back of the car while you're doing that, how was that for you?
This is strange saying this in front of them, but the most intimidating part of that was being behind the wheel, just actually driving these two. You know, I think I made a joke to Bob, like, oh, you trust me? I don't think it went over that well. Yeah, that scene is just classic, iconic Scorsese dialogue. That's pretty hard to mess up. So yeah, it was a blast.
And you've learned not to keep a fish in your car.
Life lesson.
Right. Anna, your character says so much without necessarily dialogue. But I mean, honestly, you're the surrogate for the audience in a way, and we see your reactions throughout. And I just wonder, I mean, do you like acting do you find that challenging, exciting to act without a lot of dialogue like that?
I mean, not to be funny, but I feel like I learned to act on a film where the woman who played my mom had literally no dialogue whatsoever. So I feel like I had a pretty good master class as a 9-year-old in acting. No, you know, I think sometimes that, you know, you don't need to say everything. A look or the emotion that you're conveying doesn't necessarily need to be realized, and that's certainly, you know, its own challenge, but it was a really exciting one and was incredibly fun to do.
Did you have an interesting first day of shooting on this film?
Yeah, it was that big ballroom scene with the Frank Sheeran appreciation dinner, and I think it was either day 1 or day 2 that I basically was like, so what did you do at work today? Well, I danced with Al Pacino for 6 hours. And which was great, except for the bit where I was so painfully nervous that I was absolutely certain that the reason that like I kept tripping on his feet was because clearly I was doing something wrong until he informed me that Hopper don't dance. And I was kind of like, okay, well, I thought you were a really amazing dancer, so I thought obviously this was my fault. Yeah, no, there's worse ways to feel silly at the office.
Bob, I want to ask you about Joe Pesci, who I think is so good at 4 years since you, Marty, and he were last together in a film, Casino. He has largely stepped away from acting over the years since then. Do you know why that was, and how did you guys convince him to come back?
Well, Joe, I was working on him over the years to do this. And, you know, he said this, and I said, Joe, come on, we gotta do it. And so eventually, and then we didn't know where the money was coming from, and then there was a back problem, and so on. But he was always there. He was always like just pushing and pushing, and he loves Marty. He wanted to do it. We're old friends, and so he when the time came for him to do it, and it was real, he would do it.
Yeah.
So that was.
And
And I don't know why he retired. I don't know.
Yeah. Al, just as a fellow actor, watching somebody, in the case of Joe, playing really against type, if there's a way, you know, his most well-known characters are kind of these crazy, wild guys. This is the quiet Dom. This is a guy who is compassionate and as much as a mafioso, I guess, can be. What did you make of seeing him and him at work with Bob and Marty, who have Raging Bull and Goodfellas and again Casino in their past together?
Well, I've been so used to working, in a way, seeing Joe and knowing what he does and seeing that change. And it was very impressive. And of course, Bob was different, just when he inhabits a role, always. But I was more familiar with Bob and had, of course, everything with Bob. So the little I did have with Joe was very special to me, to work with him. And so I tell you, there was a certain comfort level. And I joined the company when they were in flight, really. I was doing something else, and they were already filming a few weeks, right? And that was it, and I went and joined them, and it was like, we didn't have rehearsals, but we did, in a way, a lifetime together, knowing each other, and I think we talked every time I'd say anything to Bob, he was right there. And also when I would say anything, yes, the character, he was also right there. That happened a few times. And,
Yeah.
and number one thing Marty said, which is brilliant, of course, is, oh yeah, I'm gonna see you in the editing room, aren't I? So I thought, yes, Marty, it was all right. See, the thing is, you get that sense of freedom when you're around someone who you know, in a way, is gonna take care of you and has your back, so to speak. You know that you're covered.
Yeah. Since we are with an audience that has just seen this for the first time, I actually wanted to kind of go down the line, starting with Jesse, and just ask, when you guys each saw this for the first time, what was it that maybe surprised you the most or struck you the most about the way this all came together? Jesse?
I just saw it for the first time
Last night, yeah.
And they pulled us out of, well, whoever was watching the film, they pulled us out of the theater 15 minutes before the end, which is just cruel.
So don't spoil it for them.
Yeah, what happened? I was struck at how funny it was. I was just saying, I remember chuckling when I was reading the script, but it's just, I don't know, it's so alive and so funny and so emotional, and the phone call with Sheeran to Joe after the deed is done was just, wow.
Huge fan of the sort of mafia genre of films, and I don't think I've ever seen one where the pathos of our protagonist, who's also obviously a terrible human being, was quite so sort of gut-wrenching. And that even though he's done all these terrible things and he kind of alienated the people in his life that he really cares about, that your heart breaks for him, and he's just this sad and alone, coming to the end of his life with no one left. And that to me was, quite surprising how poignant that was.
Bobby?
I was struck at how sad I was at the end. Like the last 40 minutes of the movie were like seeing, I don't know, you grow up loving movies so much, and I grew up like just loving these guys especially more than anybody else. Like when you're a kid coming up and you got two great actors like that, not one, it's like two great, incredible actors, you go, it's hard not to make that emotional connection at the end of a film like this, because I just kind of, I was struck at how sad I felt. I was like, what's happening? Joe Pesci's dying, Al Pacino's dying, Bob De Niro's dying. Is there ever going to be another movie again? That was really sad at the end of that movie. And it almost had nothing to do with the movie, but it did. I know it did. Like, Marty knows what he's doing. So that's what I felt.
I gotta follow that. I was taken by, they use the aging process for the three main guys and not for us. But I was surprised at how old I can look. Just hair pushed back, and now I look like my father. But I also, we saw it, Bobby and I saw it the first time in the screening room, a little screening room, Marty's screening room, about 10 people, and which was great. But then seeing it last night, for me, it's like just it's the argument why I hope this experience never goes away, the big theater experience with a room full of people that you don't know. What we didn't really feel in that room was just how immersed everybody was in the story, and you know, the laughter was great. It tells you how funny we were. It was even funnier than we thought when we saw it the first time, because you're like the soundtrack. It's like watching without a soundtrack when you don't have an audience there laughing at. But even the silence was so compelling. Yeah. So this is the type of movie that's the argument for why this experience has to stick around. You know?
And the good news, I think, is that November 1st, I believe, it is in theaters, and then on Thanksgiving on Netflix. Bob and Al, I just wanted to ask you, do you see this as a closing of a chapter as far as, you know, the crime movies that you'll make? It's a summation of, it seems like, so many of the great crime-related movies you've been a part of, or are you open to doing others beyond this?
I just turned down Scarface 2.
I'm available. That's a joke.
So I take that, you.
Well, you know, I'm sorry. I just feel that you approach things all the time as an actor, pretty much the same way. We all do it. You look for the material, and it's there, and it's alive, and it's saying something in a way. If one can say that anymore, I don't know. I love what you just said about the big theater and what that means to be the whole atmosphere. Part of what a film is the audience and things shared. And I you know, Quentin Tarantino has that theater in LA. I don't know if you've heard of it.
Really, yeah.
Yeah, and he shows all the films in 35. That is, you know, and the difference in the life inside the film is really something that reaches you. Really can touch it. It's alive. And so, but as far as the scripts go, the directors go, and you know, there's always invention, and another kind of crime thing will come out. You know, whatever. It happens. So you don't close the book on it, but it did turn a corner. And I felt as though, I'm sorry, I'm gonna go on now. You guys can leave. I do think in the film, when I saw it, it had that thing at the end of it. I think maybe some of you are feeling it now. I think you may a little later of what Marty was saying in it, and how it just comes off, and it is different. It leaves you with something about our world, our life, and I think that was what caught me. I even wrote a letter to Bob after I saw it, and it lingered and made you feel. That's the thing. Think, but feel.
Bob, I wanted to ask you if you believe the Sharon version of events, or, you know, there's all these theories, Hoffa's in the end zone at Giant City, whatever. I mean, did you have to, did you buy his version of events?
Yeah, I you know, you can theorize all you want about it. It just seemed to me, in the way, reading the book, the way he describes things, the things that I understand in my life, I said, this guy is real. And I believe his story, because these things about in a drum can, some oil can, whatever, here at end of so-and-so stadium, this is the simplest thing they could have, if you think about it, could have done, and would have done if they. So I buy it totally, until somebody comes up with a better answer, really.
Right.
But we didn't intend it to be the definitive of what, this is how we did it. I think it was a great story for us.
Absolutely.
anyone thinking of cremation, I have second thoughts after seeing that. I said, no, Jimmy, don't put Jimmy in there. I played him, I mean.
Can I ask a question?
Please.
I don't know the answer to this. Was that line in the script, you charge a gun, you run from a knife?
Well, there was a line, but I thought I'd rhyme. I like a rhyme. I saw a great film once. I wish I could name it. It wasn't a dream. I actually saw it, I think, and it was with all rhymes. Did anybody seen that? It's called Yes.
Sally Potter.
Yes. Wow, wasn't that something? I mean, that was really, it was all rhyming, and that's probably what I want to do next. Gangsters and rhyme.
Two audience questions, and then we'll let these guys go. Let's start right up here, please.
What would you regard as your shining moment in your life?
So just to repeat, if anybody didn't hear, the question was for Bob, what do you regard as the shining moment in your life?
In my professional life.
Professional life and career.
Well, I do feel that this movie is one of those times. It took us a long time to get it up and running and make it and so on, and I do feel this. You know, Raging Bull, and there are other films that I've done with Godfather 2, obviously, and Heat with Al.
All of that's happened, do you feel like this is really a special movie?
Yes, I do. And I don't have much more time. I'd like to be around, so.
We're gonna go to the next person over here, please. Was there a scene, this is a question for Bob and Al, is there a scene in the movie that you couldn't get through because you were just laughing too hard?
Well, he makes me laugh. Al made me laugh in the scene where I walk out of the room and I'm annoyed at him for calling everybody a motherfucker. It was just so funny. I mean, when I watch the dailies, I always laugh.
And any of the voiceover narrator, some of those, I think the line that gets a big laugh is, what's that about? Or what are those things that you
Oh,
say?
Yeah, that was about something when I'm in the wheelchair.
Right.
Yeah, that was good.
And Al, did you want to answer that as well? Anything that cracked you up during the making the movie?
Finally at a loss. I can't remember it. I do remember it's extremely cold. And when you're very cold, you don't laugh. And everywhere I went, it was, remember how cold it was? Or maybe it was just me because, I'm old. And it's like you go outside, you go from the camper to the location. I remember that. And I remember dancing with her and thinking, I really don't know how to dance. I hope she does. But I didn't find it funny. I'm gonna think about this. I'll send you a note.
All right, let's end with somebody have a profound question, something a little, hold on. You raise your hand, please. No, I don't know what you're holding. Oh, okay, go ahead. Go ahead.
humor or interview, so I can identify literature sometimes. So how do you do that? How do you, it's not asking you to do it in secret. How does that happen? Does that happen naturally, or does that happen? Do you have to prepare for that? Do you work on it?
Okay, thanks. The question is basically just how do you bring out humanity even in characters that seem pretty bad guys sometimes, but you still, as we see, you know, we care about them in a lot of your films, including this one. So I guess if Al and Bob want to tackle that one, either first.
I mean, I always like to see the, you know, everybody has their reasons, every character has their reasons, and everybody has their tender side, if you will. I mean, I like to think that about everybody, most people in the world. And so you look for those things in a character, and I think that's what makes a character. If you are able to find those sides, those colors, that's what makes it more interesting and more real. I don't want to I'll just say, there's one character I will never play.
Yeah.
You know who that is. One speck of humanity in the person. And hopefully we'll be rid of it soon enough.
Al, do you want to close this out? After that, okay.
It's just that all that stuff that's in us is out there, you know, it's in all of us, and when you access it, you do access it just by living, but it's always there, and it's finally accessing it, you know, it's in us all.
Well, thank you guys. Congratulations. Thank you so much for